sabotage the transport skiff's engines. If the money is lost, the whole base is finished. Vane will be the one responsible. But Vane, anticipating foul play, had stashed the payroll inside an old, decommissioned ceremonial cannon on the dock. As a pirate scout ship, actually, Grizzly in a disguised freighter, made a mock run at the base to create a distraction, Pringle panicked and accidentally lit the fuse of the cannon. Boom! The cannon fired, but instead of a shell, a shower of gold-pressed credits erupted into the sky, raining down over the entire base like a metallic monsoon. Manna from heaven! The crew cheered, scrambling to collect the bars. Admiral Sterling stood on the deck of his shuttle, a gold bar hitting him squarely in the chest. He looked at the chaos, then at Vane, then at the Commodore, who was currently chasing a credit bar that had rolled into the alligator enclosure. "Vain," Sterling said, tucking the bar into his pocket. "This is the most unorthodox, chaotic, and frankly insane outpost in the galaxy." Vane saluted. "We aim to please, sir. However," Sterling continued, "you managed to fend off pirates, host an archduke, maintain 100% morale, and your accounting is surprisingly creative. I'm promoting you to full commander and sending Bluster to a remote weather station on a planet that is 99% ice." "But Admiral," Bluster wailed from the alligator pit, "the garter belts." "I have proof." "Goodbye, Chucky Wucky," Sterling said, the shuttle doors hissing shut. As the shuttle roared into the stars, Vane turned to Pringle. "Well, Acting Executive Officer, I think it's time for that party." Pringle tripped over a credit bar and fell into Sydney's arms. The alligator didn't bite. It just licked the peanut butter off Pringle's cheek. "Wowie wow wow." Pringle sihil. "Exactly," Vane said, lighting a cigar. "Exactly." The end. The Chaos of Emerald Archipelago. A novel of tropical incompetence and high seas hilarity. Chapter 1. The Ulcer of Command. The sun over the Emerald Archipelago was not so much a celestial body as it was a personal affront. It hung in the sky like a giant, glowing lemon, squeezing its heat onto the rusting hulls of Sector 7. Commodore Barnaby Iron Stomach Blight sat in his office, his face a shade of purple that usually signaled a localized weather event. He was currently screaming at his supply officer about undergarments. "Wow, wow, wow," Blight bellowed, slamming a fist onto a desk that was mostly held together by hope and dried salt. "Garter belts. Higgins, you are the supply officer of this entire godforsaken outpost. If the medical staff needs garter belts to keep their sanity or their stockings up, you snap to it. Shake a leg. Literally." Higgins, a man whose primary survival instinct was to look as invisible as possible, nodded frantically. "Sir, it's a war. Of logistics. I'm doing my best. Everything is on my shoulders." Blight moaned, collapsing back into his chair. He reached for a bottle of white pills that he consumed like candy. "My stomach acid could start a diesel engine. And now, the final blow. Commissioner Sterling is coming." Steelgaze Sterling. "He's doing a sneak inspection." "Look at this place, Higgins. The sinks in the officers' club are backing up. The grass is overgrown with carnivorous vines, and I'm fairly certain the security detail is currently running an illegal casino in the boiler room." Blight's eyes darted toward the window, where the sleek, slightly dented patrol boat, the Sea Wasp, sat at the pier. Command of the Sea Wasp belonged to Commander Wildcat Callahan, a man who treated military regulations as light suggestions and whose crew was more pirate than privateer. "Wait," Blight whispered, a devious light flickering in his eyes. "If I was sick, truly, medically incapacitated, I could appoint an acting base commander, someone to take the heat from the commissioner, someone like Callahan." Higgins blinked. "Sir, giving Callahan command of the base is like giving a pyromaniac a box of matches and a gallon of gasoline." "Exactly," Blight cackled, clutching his stomach with exaggerated theatricality. "He'll ruin himself. He'll turn the base into an orgy of incompetence right in front of Sterling's eyes. Call the medic. I'm dying. I'm fading. Carmen, get the stretcher." Chapter 2. The Acting Admiral of Misrule, Commander Wildcat Callahan, stood on the deck of the Sea Wasp, looking at the base through a pair of binoculars that he had won in a poker game. The old man has finally lost it, Callahan remarked to his executive officer, Lieutenant Timmy Timble. Timble, whose uniform was perpetually 3 sizes too large and whose nerves were made of wet tissue paper, trembled. They say he's got the tropical tremors. Skip, he's appointed you acting base commander. Me? Callahan grinned. Well, Timbo, get your dress whites out. You're the new executive officer of the whole sector. Oh boy, Timble squeaked. You won't regret this, Skip. I already do, Callahan muttered. Within the hour, the base had transformed. Callahan didn't believe in paperwork. He believed in vibe. He moved the command center to the beach bar. The petty officers' sinks were still backed up, but now there was a sign over them that said, Indoor Tide Pool. Timble was busy on the phone. Yes, ma'am. The garter belts are on the way. We found a crate of them. They're a bit pinker than standard issue, but they've got great elasticity. What? The firing range? Oh, don't worry about the construction crew being in the middle of the range. Just tell them to keep their heads down during practice. Meanwhile, the crew of the Sea Wasp, the Grog Hounds, were taking full advantage. Skip said, Full speed ahead, shouted Rusty, the crew's resident scrounger. Open up the shop, boys. We've got the hula girls coming in from the local village. We've got the fermented pineapple juice. And we've got a 3-legged goat for the raffle. But isn't Commissioner Sterling coming? Timble asked, sweating through his hat. Iron Pants Sterling? Callahan laughed. We'll be shipshape by the time he lands. Now, someone get me a drink with an umbrella in it. Chapter 3. The Hula Hazard. Commissioner Sterling arrived in a cloud of dust and military precision. He was a man who looked like he had been carved out of a single block of granite and then polished with anger. Blight, watching from his hospital bed with a secret stash of binoculars, was giddy. Any minute now, he whispered to Higgins, the commissioner will walk into the command center and find Callahan dancing with a goat. But Callahan had heard the sirens. Scramble, Callahan yelled. Hide the juice. Hide the girls. Put the goat in the supply closet. Where do we put the hula troop? Rusty panicked. The air raid shelter, Callahan pointed. Move, move, move. When Sterling entered the office, he found Callahan and Timble staring intently at a map of the ocean. Welcome to the Emerald Sector, sir, Callahan said with a crisp salute. Acting Commander Callahan, at your service. This is my exec, Lieutenant Timbo. Ignore the lei around his neck. It's a local custom for warding off sea spirits. Sterling narrowed his eyes. Where is Blight? Hospital, sir. Severe case of everything, Callahan replied. Suddenly, Blight appeared in the doorway, clad in a bathrobe and looking suspiciously healthy. Commissioner, don't believe him. This base is a den of iniquity. There are hula girls in the air raid shelter right now. I saw them. Sterling looked at the shelter. Hula girls? In a military installation? He's delirious, sir, Callahan said smoothly. Tropical fever. He thinks he sees dancers everywhere. Earlier, he accused the supply officer of being a giant penguin. I am not a penguin, Blight screamed. Look in the shelter. Sterling marched to the shelter and threw open the door. It was empty. The Grog Hounds had managed to move the troop into the base laundry 5 seconds prior. Blight, Sterling said, his voice like grinding stones. Go back to bed. Your hallucinations are a disgrace to the uniform. Chapter 4. The Vizier and the Chicken. No sooner had Sterling left, vowing to return for a real inspection, than a new crisis arrived. A signal came from High Command. The Grand Vizier of Marituba was arriving with his 3 daughters. The princesses of the Palms. We have to make an impression, Blight grumbled, back in uniform and nursing a grudge the size of a whale. I don't want Callahan anywhere near the royalty. But, sir, Timbo protested. Callahan is the only one who knows the local dialect. I don't care. Send them to the Isle of No Return. Naturally, Callahan's boat broke down, or strategically paused, right where the Vizier's plane had been forced to make an emergency landing. Greetings, "O exalted ruler," Callahan shouted,